wrapping up the final interview Q&A questions given to me by the CJKD group, the Contemporary Jiu-Jitsu group, Progressive Fighting System, Defense of the Dragons and Masters, Lineage, Bruce Lee. So the question here, if you could share one thing regarding teaching, what would it be? And I would say, as instructors, my recommendation to other fellow instructors, which I have hundreds of friends in that category, it's the same. It hasn't changed for years, as long as I remember as a teacher. Since I've been teaching since 1993, and in the Jiu-Jitsu format, it has always been the same thing. It's like, let's never say the words like never say the words always, never say this is the best way, ... Lipsticks. So, and I say that because what my pet peeve is, and it just kind of perks my ears every time I hear it, even in passing, if I'm walking past some type of instruction, or if I'm watching a YouTube video and I hear these words, I just delete it. I don't finish watching it. I'll give you an example. So I pass by and an instructor will say, when somebody does a haymaker punch, here's what you always should do. There's the word always. Well, that's not true. It's not necessary. It's not correct. They'll say, never do this, and this is a waste of your time. But I can show you videos of street fights that somebody did that just reactively, and it did work. You know, I'll give you an example. Why do you waste your time in Kung Fu doing cartwheels? Well, we don't waste our time. There is Kung Fu systems that will do acrobatics within it, especially with the Wushu formats. And I've seen somebody actually do a cartwheel, kick the guy in the face and knock him out. So if it was ingrained in his head that this never works, he wouldn't have done it, and it might have been the one thing that saved his life in that situation. Always be in this stance, and the feet have to be pointed in 45-degree angle, and blah blah blah, or you're doing it wrong. Well, if you're teaching that to students, they're not going to do it if they don't think they're doing it correctly, and it's not going to be reactive. Bruce Lee himself said, react, don't think. And every position that the body moves is a potential way of doing it. So anytime you hear the word always, just try to get that out of your vocabulary. This always works. This never works. This is the best way. This is the worst way. Get all of that verbiage out of it. And Guru Dan says this all the time, with the Jiu-Jitsu philosophy. He's like, a student asks him pretty much every seminar, every class, what about this and what about that? And you're telling me this will work? Will that really work? And Guru Dan would be like, sometimes, possibly, perhaps. Those are kind of his responses. It may work, it may not work. It's all situational. It's all reaction. It's all, what is the other opponent going to do? Is the connection at what part of their body? Some people, you can hit them in the neck and they'll pass out right away. Some people won't. Some people, you hit in the head, they'll get knocked out. Some people won't. Some people, you do an arm bar. And you hear this a lot too with the BJJ community, unfortunately, in my opinion. And then you do the arm bar and break the arm. But I've seen people where, they did it as hard as they can. That where an average person may tap out in a training setting, but in a street fight, because they're so hooked on adrenaline and drugs, they just don't. They don't tap, they don't cry, they don't feel it, and the arm doesn't break. Some people are hyper flexible. I've seen hyper flexibility that would break my arm, but it doesn't break their arm. So to say this always works, or they'll always tap out, or I want you to tap out when it gets to this range of motion, it's not true with everybody. Or just break the arm and that'll end the fight. And I've seen Bart Vell, one of my mentors and instructors in shoot fighting, shoot wrestling, shoot fighting, Shudo, it's all different words, same thing. He got his arm broken and like a pride type mixed martial art fight in Japan, and he kept fighting and knocked the guy out with the good hand. So again, saying that, even if it does break, are they going to stop? If they're hooked on adrenaline, are they going to stop? So again, just stop saying that. Don't say this is the best way. You could say, in my opinion, the probability of this working is a higher success rate than this. Is poking somebody in the eye have a higher probability of stopping a fight, or uppercutting them in the chin, or knifing them in the heart, or whatever? Everything's comparative. So just teach a drill and say it works some of the time, but nothing works all the time. So that's part of our saying almost every class. Everything works some of the time, nothing works all the time, but we learn everything because sometimes it works. And if you do the what if game, well, what if they do this? What if they do this? And I get that from everybody in the seminar. What if they do this? I said, then we do something else. Well, what's else? I said, no, you're going down a rabbit hole, because if I give you a solution for that, after I say that, I said, well, and then what if they turn this way? That's another drill. We're never going to get a class taught if we do the what if drill. What if go to eternity in both directions? So you got to stop. You really have to kind of sometimes be rude and just say, shut your mouth. Let's do the drill. Take it. If you want to learn it, stay here. And then you teach people. I tell people every class I might teach you 10 to 15 things. I just want you to walk away with one thing that works with your body style, your flexibility, your range of motion, and your ability to memorize that and get that drill down. Just worry about one. Don't worry about all 10 that I taught you. Worry about the one that you think is going to work best for you. If you can't do the splits, I'm not going to tell you to spend a lot of time kicking somebody in the head. If you're in a wheelchair, I'm not going to tell you to do low coupe de bas, savate, and fouette kicks. I'm going to say, hey, get that knife. It's under your seat, and we're going to be doing a lot of stabbing. That's what's going to work for you. And then there's another question here. Yeah, it says kind of like last parting thoughts, and it kind of goes back to what I say, that don't use those words I mentioned earlier, but also question everything. So don't go to a seminar, whether it's taught by your mentor or somebody else, that you may or may not have an interest in as much, but don't start asking all these questions. Well, I like doing this better. Well, and Guru Dan says all the time, go to a seminar, shut up, absorb, walk away and apply what situation works for you. Even if you don't like applying it, learn it, because other people know that application, and in your head this is how you would counter it. So do all that what if stuff on your own, training on your own time. When you come to my class or anybody else's classes, just shut up and listen, and let's just go through the training so we get what we want out of it, and we're able to process the information on our own. But question everything also, like in your head. I'm not asking the questions in a seminar setting or in a class, but in my head, I'm questioning it. Let me try that a few times. Let me tell people to do mad rush scenarios, and let me see if I can apply that in my techniques, or how can I blend it in. Everything's a piece of the puzzle. So I tell people, first of all, you got to tell me kind of what your goals are, that what you want to get out of this class or this seminar. Let's paint a picture for you. That's a different picture from somebody else, even though the techniques may be crossed over. And then I say, all right, now that we have an idea of the big picture, let's give you a technique that's just one piece of that big picture puzzle. And then every piece of the puzzle connects in a 1, 2, or 3, depends if it's a corner piece, an edge piece, or if it's in the middle. If it's in the middle, it might have 3 other or 4 other connecting puzzle pieces to it. And those puzzle pieces represent other techniques that complement and transition from here. But if you want to do this technique over here, let's just say that that's a ground technique. But we start over here, which is a weapons technique. We can't go from a weapons to a ground. We can't all of a sudden be in the weapons range and be on the ground. There's stuff that happens in between. So from this piece of puzzle, you learn this first, the weapons, right? Because that applies to everybody in a self-defense as effective, whether you're taller, bigger, stronger, or smaller, right? Nobody, doesn't matter if you're 100 pounds or 200 pounds, a knife is going to be effective. And then you say, okay, from there, let's transition into some kicks, because that's the next range, right? And then let's learn that drill really well. And that's your second piece of puzzle, that you can go from a weapons range to a kicking range very quickly. And then I teach you another technique, and that technique is going to be a punching range, right? So now we did a weapons range. We did it connected to a kicking range. It connected to a punching range. That connected to a trapping range. So I teach you a trapping drill. So we don't go from here to here. We had to go from here to the kicking range, to the punching range, to the trapping range. Now we've lost our balance. We transition to the ground. That's the ground range. But we don't want to stay there, because there's multiple attackers. You got another guy coming over here. Oh shit, I got to come back up. I got to come back over here to the weapons range, get my weapon, start fighting this guy and this guy and this guy. Up, we lost our weapon. All right, let's go to the kicking range. Up, they closed the gap. Punching range. Up, they trapped us. They came into the trapping range. Let's go to the takedown and transition from there. But I just tell my students, you have to continue to learn more and more pieces of puzzles, and it's a never-ending puzzle.